All right, guys. So let's talk about how to actually build and find a strategy or an edge. So this part is probably a little bit confusing to you guys. And just to clarify, building a strategy, building an edge, or even finding one that works is actually really hard. And there is no proven process to this. Like when I built my strategy, my hunter algos, when I found the pre-sale group, when I figured out my process for identifying small projects that I think had a lot of upside potential. When I came up with the airdrop farming system, there was no step-by-step process. There was no guide that I followed. There's no like fucking video that I went and watched how to build an algo, how to build a system. None of this existed. And this is why it works. Because when something is able to be explained in a step-by-step process, anyone can do it, and if anyone can do it, the alpha's gone, the edge is gone. An edge exists because you are able to do something that other people can't do. If I have an investing system, and I created it and only give access to it to people who pay me money, right? And only a few people know about it, only a few people use it, that system has an edge because it can't be replicated by anyone else, right? No one knows how to code my algo. And if they did, the algo would probably stop working because everyone would be using it, right? An edge exists because you have something that other people don't. And so if you find a video, how to build a strategy, that's only going to be so useful because if it can be replicated by anyone, there's no profit left to be made. So the edge, the strategy that you want that makes you money cannot just be done through following a step-by-step process. So if you need someone to sit down and tell you, hey, little Johnny, here's exactly how you build a system, a strategy, you're not going to make a strategy that's going to work. Not going to happen. You can't need to be handheld, and you need to be able to just fucking figure shit out. Like, people always ask me, Daniel, how do you do this? How do you do that? Use your fucking brain. Just figure it out. You don't need to ask people how to do things. You just figure it out. Just do the work, right? I find this whole question of how to do things really dumb. It just presumes that you don't already have all the answers. The funny thing about humans is you think that because you don't know something right now, that you need someone to tell you how to do something. When the truth is that everything that you need to know is right in front of you if you listen and if you actually just fucking work, right? How to build an algo? I don't know. Do you think I know how to run a seven-figure business? Do you think I watched a video on how to run a seven-figure business? Do you think I know how to create a course? Do you think I watched a video on how to create a course, on how to create videos, on how to do copywriting, or how to build an algo, how to invest in crypto? I didn't watch fucking courses for any of this shit. I just started doing things, right? You learn through doing. That's the best way to learn things. So I will give you in this video a process that you can follow, but I need you to understand watching this that if you really want results in doing, building a strategy, building an edge, doing things that you actually have to do yourself, the edge comes from you doing shit that you probably can't find an answer for on the internet. You just have to do things, right? You just have to figure it out. I know it's a weird thing to explain to people and people don't really get it, but you just have to figure it out. Just do it. I know it's a terrible answer and I know it's not what you want to hear, but that's pretty much it. But look, I'm going to try my best in this video. Now that the disclaimer is out of the way, I'm going to try my best to give you what I think is a good starting point for building and finding your own edge. Now, I need you to understand that this course is designed to give you everything that you would need, pretty much everything you'd need to implement a system, right? The system I've given you is how to research a project, what to sort of rate a project by, how to know when to buy, how to know when to sell, how to pay little to no taxes, how to have good banking infrastructure set up. So you pretty much have my entire strategy. You don't need to build your own. You have mine, right? But let's say you wanted to build your own long-term investing system. Let's say you wanted to get access to pre-sales. Let's say you wanted to create your own automated airdrop farming system, right? Let's say you wanted to build your own trading system or some other strategy outside of what I teach here. Well, you're going to have to watch this video. All right, this is not necessarily a mandatory watch, but if you're interested to know how to build your own strategy and edge so you don't have to just copy mine, right? Because eventually mine might not work anymore, or maybe you have to update it, right? I'll obviously be continually updating it, but maybe one day it just stops working. I don't know. Maybe you're going to have to go off and do your own thing eventually. You're going to have to leave the bird's nest. Like, I'm the mother bird, getting you guys fed, making you millions, right? Maybe I leave one day and I just fly away, right? And all that's left is the food that I gave you, right? You'll have to see. But regardless, the strategy I've given you, again, to repeat it, how to know when to, like, figuring out what to buy, figuring out when to buy, figuring out when to sell, figuring out how to lose as little as possible on taxes, and how to get your bank to not hate you, right? That's pretty much what this course is. It's 5 components. You don't need to build your own. But anyway, let's get into it. As I said, there was no formal process. It just sort of happened. Just oops, made money. But there is 5 components to a strategy, which I will go over. So first component is the data that backs the strategy, which is, I guess, sort of the strategy itself. Second is the intuition behind the strategy. Third is the confluence amongst data. 4 is your network, and 5 is the refinement. So when you build a strategy, you need data, right? What's the strategy based on? What data? Well, what data are you using? How are you going to combine the data? What sites are you signing up for? Are you using June Analytics? Are you using Glassnode? Are you using Trading Light? What platforms are you using? Is it real or fake data? Have you back tested the data? Have you forward tested the data? Does the data reprint, or is it sent in real time? Reprinting is basically where an algo says that it sent a signal, but it didn't send a signal live. It showed up in a back test, but it didn't actually happen in real time, right? It's called reprinting, okay? Another thing, does this data easily suffer from alpha decay? So if, how easily is this data just going to get found by other people and automated, right? Let's say my hunter algorithms, for example, the reason it hasn't suffered from alpha decay is 1, funding data doesn't suffer from alpha decay. We talk about this in the course. But 2, the data is combined in a way that no one else has access to besides people who pay for it, e.g. the hunter algorithms, right? So that's why it doesn't suffer from alpha decay, because no one fucking has access to it. I built it. I'm not sharing it for free. And last but not least, are you constantly updating and looking for better data, right? So this is all the things you need to consider when you build an algo, or even just a strategy altogether. And to summarize data, it's, the more accurate, the more money you make. Now, the second component of building a strategy is the confluence. So let's say you have one piece of data, but you need to buy a bottom or sell a top, or whatever it is that your strategy is. That is probably not a good idea. You probably want confluence amongst 2 minimum, but ideally probably a few different data sets. So how many of these data sets that you look at are telling you to buy or sell, right? Is the data saying the same thing, or is it all saying different things, right? If data is all saying the same thing, it's probably accurate. Confluence means when multiple things are telling you it's the same thing, basically. How many of your data sets do you need to say the same thing to buy? So that's a consideration. And is there data outside of your strategy supporting your system? So maybe, my hunter algorithms is my strategy, right? Buy low, sell high. But maybe I have data outside of the hunter algorithms that I use to gain further confluence on every signal. And I combine that with intuition, which we'll go into next, to determine how big or small of a position I enter on every signal, right? More data saying one thing equals more likely it's right. The best traders I know all look for confluence, right? Think about Toshi. Let's talk about Toshi again. Think about how much confluence was with Toshi at the bottom. I saw 10 different pieces of confluence when I bought, and that's why I went in with 0.5% of the supply, right? I saw confluence. There was remember the fundamental characteristics we went over in this course? For example, pattern recognition. My intuition was going off at me, right? What else was there? It was a new project, right? Number 2. Mindshare was the most talked about project on Base. Next up, I think we're going to talk about exit flows. We have the Coinbase to Base to Toshi flows, right? And there was a number of other data sets, all with confluence pointing to the same thing, okay? And yeah, number 3 is intuition. So when you have a number of data sets, and with a lot of these systems, it's not just as simple as buy when it says buy and sell when it says sell. You often do have to apply what's called discretion, and a lot of strategies are discretionary strategies. When you build your strategy or your edge, you have to determine, is this a discretionary or non-discretionary strategy or system? Do you and what you believe and what your intuition is telling you have an impact on what you do, or are you just completely copying the system? Typically with trading, you tend to be more non-discretionary because it's a lot more emotional.